Our next speaker is Stephen Nadel. Steve has been the Executive Director of the American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy since 2001. He's also attended every US summer study on energy efficiency since the beginning back in 1980. So when it comes to summer studies and energy efficiency, he knows the landscape. Under Steve's dynamic leadership, Tripoli has been one of the world's most effective organisations in researching and promoting energy efficiency. He's previously planned and evaluated energy efficiency programs for major electricity utilities, directed energy programs for Massachusetts' largest environment organisation, and he is recognised as a world-leading authority on transforming markets for energy efficiency. Please welcome Steve Nadel.
Okay, thank you, Chris and John. I'm very happy to be here and share a few thoughts and insights to help kick things off a little bit on the topic of summer studies, productivity, and technical and policy innovation, kind of a grab bag of various things. First, as Chris noted, summer studies began in 1980 in the US to bring together researchers to have a time to spend time together, talk informally, and really develop some new ideas. So here I attempted to write a definition of summer studies. I will not be reading this or virtually any other slides, so follow along if you will. I'll be hitting some high points. But it's really a place where we can gather and share ideas, maybe have some fun, but also out-of-the-box thinking. You know, we're away from downtown, let your mind wander, get to know people you may not know, and let those synergies help develop some new creative ideas. The American Summer Study began in 1980. We hold it every other year. It's a lot of work. We have over 1,000 people attend. It happens to be on the beach in Monterey, California. Yes, the European one is in the French Riviera, also odd years. I believe there is a contest for people. We're giving away a free registration, and the Australian Alliance is giving away the airfare for some lucky person to attend the American Summer Study, which is in August, our summer. So a nice break from your winter. So to make the most of a summer study, try to disconnect from the office. It's only a few days. Try to take advantage of the 4 minutes of fame, the informal sessions. It's not just listening as in the usual conference to the speakers. Connect with people, share a beer, share a wine with someone whose presentation you really liked. You can rest up when you get home, but this will be going from breakfast to the wee hours. So in the remainder of my talk, I wanted to talk about 6 different topics, touch on to get people thinking about different things. Again, I won't be reading them. First one is Tripoli does every other year an international energy efficiency scorecard where we compare the world's leading economies on about 30 different energy efficiency metrics and try to pull together an overall score. Last time I was here, I presented our 2012 international scorecard. Now I was going to talk a little bit about our 2014 one. We are just starting work on 2016, no results yet. In the 2014 one, we looked at the 16 largest economies in the world. Overall, Germany came in #1 in that scorecard. I know we have at least one German, so congratulations to Germany. But before they celebrate too much, and Australia came in 12th. So, 10th, thank you. I can't quite read it. You did beat the US, we were 13th, so congratulations there. But there are some limitations on this. Happy to discuss those with people later. I'm not going to go into them. But while I said Germany is #1, Germany got 65 out of 100 points. Now, the 35 points Germany missed, some other country got those. The maximum points in each scale, some country earned. So it's not theoretical. Someone got all of them. So Germany's #1, but the last time when I went to high school, if I got 65 on an exam out of 100, my teachers weren't exactly happy. So everybody has room to improve. We can all learn from each other. Turning to Australia, Australia was 10th out of 16th this last time. On our first scorecard, you were 6 out of 12, so you're moving down a little bit. So hopefully we can reverse that direction. Australia tends to be strong in buildings and industry, building codes, the Neighbours program, appliance standards and labeling, voluntary agreements with industry, some pretty good efforts on some manufacturing energy intensity. There was a Clean Energy Future package. I'm not sure how much of that is left, but that was part of scoring. Since our previous scorecard, some of the savings targets have been weakened, some of the grant programs have been weakened. You lost some points there. And some of the major gaps relative to other countries, no vehicle fuel economy standards, although I understand there's discussions beginning about that. I'll say limited non-road transportation. Like the US, spaces are vast and getting around can be challenging. Turning now to the US, while we didn't do as well overall, there's some things perhaps that are useful insights from the US and some things that we are doing that will be useful here, just like I hope to learn more about what's working here, take back to the US. On the theme of energy productivity, the bottom line shows actual US energy use since 1980. The upper line, the very top, would show what energy use would have been if our energy productivity, energy per dollar GDP had remained the same. So we've basically doubled our energy productivity, if you will. We then looked at a variety of studies and tried to separate out what is the effects of structural change, less manufacturing, more imports from China, for example, from the actual energy efficiency. About 60% appears to be energy efficiency, the other 40% structural change. If you look at just the blue part, just the energy efficiency, in 2014, those savings worked out to be about 2,500 American dollars per man, woman, and child in the US. So that's pretty significant. I know if I had another $2,500 in my pocket, I'd be very happy. So really, we've made a lot of progress. I suspect if you run the numbers in Australia, it may not be quite as big, but it will also be very large. As a world with energy prices going up and more technologies, we are improving things. This chart, I won't go into the details. We looked at in this particular study, about 30 different variables. What you can see from this one, without going into the details, is a lot of them are trending down, whether it's we're reducing transmission distribution losses, improving the efficiency of our appliances, improving manufacturing energy intensity. They're all tending down, and we need to continue and accelerate that. We did a study a couple of years ago looking at 2050 savings potential. On the left, we show what energy use is predicted by the US government to be if we just did business as usual. We then did two scenarios saying how much could we cost effectively do. The second one from the left shows just applying advanced technologies, we could reduce energy use about 40% by 2050. If we also get into some additional structural changes, development patterns, transportation patterns, we can up that to a 60% savings. As you can see at the two bars at the right, those savings are distributed across the major sectors, residential, commercial, industrial, and transportation. It's not just, well, if we just do transportation, we can ignore everything else. There's lots of, it's like eating a lobster. There's lots of bits of meat in all sectors of our economy. Not sure if you could see this well, but from a macroeconomic point of view, I'd point you to the arrow near the bottom that shows that we did the economic modeling saying with the 40 and 60% savings cases, we actually do increase GDP a bit. It does cost money, but the impact of the savings and the respending of the savings more than compensates. Modest increase in GDP, but definitely it's an upward increase in GDP. Likewise, if you go a couple of rows up, it's an upward increase in employment. We're estimating by 2050 we can add between 1.3 and 1.9 million jobs in the US. Another study we did just last year, we looked at 15 different energy efficiency measures that were just getting started to be used. This lists them here. We found that these 15 measures can save 22% by 2030. We did this in response to people saying, well, we've done compact fluorescent lights, we've done this, what else is there to do? There's lots left to do. This chart shows some of the biggest ones, starting to look at plug lows, things that go beep in the night, better regulating voltage at the end of the distribution feeder, taking advantage of advanced meters and sensors to better regulate, and so on down the list. Quite a few measures that each individually could save more than 1% of total use, and together about 22%. But as John mentioned, these benefits go beyond just the direct energy savings. Last year we did a study on the multiple benefits of energy efficiency. In single-family homes, you can improve health, safety, comfort, increase property value, reduce maintenance. A variety of studies that we've looked at in the US show that those other benefits add between 50 and 300% compared to the energy benefit. So in other words, if you save $1 of direct energy costs, these other benefits save an additional 50 cents to $3. Similarly, in multifamily, a lot of similar benefits, but if tenants are happier, you'll have higher occupancy, reduced turnover, and that has a major value. Commercial sector, similar things, but if you also have employees who are happier and more comfortable, you may get some improved productivity. In the industrial sector, many benefits as well, including sometimes higher product quality. Not always, but sometimes the energy efficiency measures tend to be linked to better control over the process and therefore better quality. And the studies we found there show these non-energy benefits adding between 42 and 122% of the energy benefits. In other words, saving 42 cents to $1.22 per dollar of energy savings. Turning now to the utility sector in the United States, the electric utilities have been one of the major implementers of energy efficiency programs. This chart compares the cost of different types of generation resources. All the gray bars are your various types of renewable and conventional generation. Obviously, there's a variation depending on tax incentives, depending on location, et cetera. But energy efficiency to the far left is costing an average of about 3 cents per kilowatt hour saved. Again, there's a range there, far less than anything else. The only thing that can compete is wind in the best sites, given federal tax incentives, can sometimes beat out some energy efficiency, but other than that, energy efficiency is hands down the winner. One of the major policies we've used in the US is the Energy Efficiency Resource Standard. These are mandatory targets that governments impose on utilities. We now have about half the states in the US that have these, and of the states in the US that had the most electric savings, of the 19 states with the most electric savings, every one of them had targets. This is a map showing the states with the targets. The yellow are combined energy efficiency and renewable energy targets. The green are just efficiency targets. Many of those states also have separate renewable energy targets. Now, this chart is from a study we looked at. How do the targets compare to what was actually achieved? It's state by state, but if you look at the far right, you could see that's the total. For each of the years, 2011 and 2012, it shows a target. But then the actual savings were a little greater than the target in both years. They do, on average, work quite well. Yes, there are a couple of states that fell short, but the overwhelming majority of states met, if not exceeded, their targets. Another way to look at it is you can compare the states with the energy efficiency resource standards and those without. Those with basically invested 2.6% of their revenues in energy efficiency. Those without only 0.7%. Those with saved 1.1% of their sales from measures implemented just in that year. Those without only save 0.3. So it really drives things. I know, well, let's see, New South Wales, Victoria, and I think South Australia have these types of targets. So maybe they can expand them, or maybe other states can consider them. In the US, this has helped drive major increases in energy efficiency spending. This shows the spending pattern by year. We're well over $7 billion US a year now. And this chart shows the savings from these different programs. The blue bars are the incremental savings. Those are the savings from measures installed in that particular year. Nationwide in 2014, that was about measures installed in 2014 reduced U.S. electricity use by about 0.7% on average. The red bars show the savings in each year as a result of measures installed that year, as well as measures installed in previous years that are still saving energy. They typically have a 10-year life. You could see those savings growing quite rapidly, and in 2014, we saved 4.8% of total U.S. energy, electricity, as a result of those programs. Here are some of the leading states. Rhode Island saved more than 3% from measures installed in 2014. This is different from how Victoria and New South Wales do it, where they look at savings over 10 years. These are, or the measure life, these are savings just in a single year from measures installed that year. So we have on the order of a dozen states that are saving 1.25% a year or more. Last time I looked at it, the Victoria and New South Wales targets were somewhere around 0.5% a year, but I'd have to repeat those numbers. You have to separate out the longevity of the saving from their numbers. But I'd be curious if there are people there who are very familiar. Let's talk, and I'd like to update that comparison. Now, this is a chart from a forthcoming study looking at 14 of the leading program administrators. The blue line shows how savings are steadily increasing among these leading administrators. On average, they're ramping up in 2014 to about 1.8% savings per year. The red line shows the cost per kilowatt hour. Despite the fact that we're getting more and more savings, it's not more expensive. Now, economic theory would say you keep picking the low-hanging fruit, you have to go higher up in the tree, it'd be more expensive. That's what we were expecting. But it hasn't happened yet. Effectively, the fruit continues to grow back on the tree. New technologies, I mean, you know, we now have LED lights. You know, that's a new BlackBerry on the tree. How long this will continue, time will tell. But we now have about a 10-year history where the costs have not gone up, which is, I find, pretty amazing. Appliance and equipment standards, another major area. Australia has them, the US has them. This chart shows for refrigerators as an example. The red line shows consumption per refrigerator. It's now down about 70% compared to the early 1970s. But price has also gone down. I'm not saying the efficiency has caused the price to go down, but when they redesign for efficiency, they also look for ways to cut out costs. The size has actually gone up, even though we're now using 70% less energy. I'd be curious for a graph of Australia. I suspect it'll be somewhat similar, maybe not quite as steep, but somewhat similar. This shows trends for a number of appliances. Clothes washers, now we're getting even more savings in refrigerators. Furnaces and air conditioners, significant but not quite as steep. This shows the blue line is what electricity use in the United States would have been without standards. The red line is what we actually got with the standards. So it's more than 10% of US electricity use has been saved already by these standards. The dotted line shows what more we could do from a set of about 30 revised standards. So I imagine you also have your own equivalent of that dotted line, perhaps even a little bigger, because I think we've done more lately than Australia has, although I know there's now a study going on about how to revitalize those standards. Some notable products we've worked on that you may want to look at, commercial rooftop air conditioners, as well as residential air conditioners and heat pumps, industrial pumps, the T8 lamps, and driving those to the very highest levels of efficiency, both to save energy, but also to encourage movement to LEDs. Likewise, the halogen reflector lamps, driving those to the highest levels. Again, LED is an alternative. And ceiling fans, we're working on those now. And I know in my travels around Australia, I see a lot of ceiling fans, so that might be a good opportunity for you. Turning to building codes, this chart shows progress in US model building codes relative to 1980. Energy use of new homes, new buildings is down 40–50% compared to 1980. A number of the leading states are now looking at zero net energy construction, meaning how do you build a home or building that generates enough power to supply its needs on an annual basis. It doesn't mean it can interact with the grid, but on an annual basis, it's zero net energy. California, some of the other states are trying to get zero net energy as their building codes by 2030. So quite a bit further ramping down on this chart if they are successful. Then I wanted to talk about fuel economy. This is U.S. passenger vehicle fuel economy. We had some standards in the 1980s, got some significant increase. We didn't change the standards for 15 years, and guess what? Fuel economy actually modestly declined as we built all those SUVs and drove around in them. But beginning in about 2005, again, Congress restarted the fuel economy program, and you could see here that standards already set will get us to nearly 50 miles per gallon by 2025. Likewise, we're in the middle of our second set of truck efficiency standards. The light blue are the savings from the first round. The dark blue are the savings from the proposed second round. Those will be finalized probably this summer. But we are overall getting, I'll call it 30% plus savings from trucks, including 40% savings from the real large tractor trailers used for freight. I'll just skip this. Again, major economic benefits. Again, look at the arrows. You could see GDP modestly going up and employment also modestly going up as a result of this from economic modeling. Finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about innovation. One particular area we see as very important for innovation is what we call intelligent efficiency, smart building, smart manufacturing, smart transportation. This involves using sensors, controls, software to provide people information that they can act on, you know, a fuel economy display, various apps, or providing that information to ways that the software can adjust automatically. There's also how do we change our services, whether it's online marketing instead of a trip to the mall or telecommuting. All of these together, we estimate could probably reduce energy use in the U.S. by 15 to 20% by 2030. So some large savings there. Just to give one example, here's a study of some already efficient buildings in Washington, D.C. They were already Energy Star levels, but they hooked up to an off-site vendor who would constantly monitor various systems, set up error trapping routines, and they would find different opportunities, call the building manager to correct them. They got 13% savings from that. Other topics, zero net energy, whether it's new homes or commercial buildings, ceiling fans. There's a lot of opportunity with the air conditioning and heat pumps, moving to variable speed. Heat pump water heaters, I know there's a bunch of work here, but I think there's a lot more opportunities there. I put the TV on because we're probably going to be moving soon to high-definition TV. Let's make sure those high-definition TVs are energy efficient and not do what we did when we first went to flat screen, where the initial products were energy hogs, and we had to spend 15 years driving the waste out of them. Hopefully we can learn from that and design them efficiently the first time. So to conclude, summer study is a place to learn, think out of the box, and have fun. Countries can learn from each other. I certainly look forward to learning all the good things you're doing here, some of the latest there. Utility savings targets do work. Continue to update appliance and building standards. Is it time in Australia for fuel economy standards? I look forward to further discussions to learn more about that. And innovate, whether it's in your own personal projects and ideas, but also how can we contribute to a more efficient Australian economy. So thank you.